The following podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Alone in the Realm, a premium solo TTRPG podcast. I'm DV, your humble GM and adventurer. Alone in the Realm is a podcast where we let the dice drive the story, and we are along for the ride. No characters beyond death, and we let the dice lay where they fall. We'll be playing Mothership by Tuesday Night Games, and the Mega Dungeon module, Gradient Descent, by Luke Gearing. Gradient Descent, Episode 8. Here is a quick reminder of our characters. Denzel McNelly, he/him. Hit points, 11 out of 11. Stress, 6. Bends, 17. Therese Montz, she/her. Hit points, 16 out of 17. Stress, 6. Bends, 13. Ollie Kenworth, he/him. Hit points, 17 out of 17. Stress, 10. Bends, 10. Ada, automated droid assistant, they/them. Hit points, 3 out of 14. Wounds, 1. Stress, 6. Bends, 22. Monarch stress, 3. In the last episode, the crew was on the run from the hunting security androids. After several failed attempts at hiding and waiting for them to leave, they finally fled to Floor 6. The other crew of divers was dropped off on Floor 6, and it's possible our crew will run into them. Each new area we go into will have the normal encounter roll, and then we'll also get a 20% chance of finding the other divers. Chaos factor is at 6, and we'll test the scene with Mythic. D10, 8 versus 6, expected scene. The androids will arrive at this location in 30 minutes. The lift stopped at Floor 6 and the doors opened to a heavily graffitied landing. Directly across from the elevator was an office door with a graffiti-modified label. Denzel could decipher that it used to say locker room. Now it had been modified to something much more crude. On the right side of the room, 2 other doors were also labeled. One had the familiar meeting room codification embossed on the door itself that they saw in the meeting rooms on the first floor. This particular one read 6A, but it was embossed on the thin metal of the door. There was no glass pane. The last door was simply labeled break room. I'll use the same roll for the encounters and the divers. There's a slight chance the divers will be in an encounter with someone else if we roll an 11 on a D100. I rolled a 6, so no encounter, but we shall see the other crew of divers. Denzel stepped from the elevator and the others followed suit. We probably should find a place to lay low, as I figure the androids will call the lift back up and start searching this floor as well. Therese, why don't you let Arcady know that we're on Floor 6 and need pickup from there instead of Floor 1? Therese activated her comms and began relaying that information to Arcady. He says he'll be here in 30 minutes. He also said to remind us that we will need vac suits in order to get to the ship. Denzel cursed. Dadgummit! I remember there were 4 functional vac suits in that airlock. Hopefully they're still there. He pointed to the door labeled break room. Hey Ollie, I wonder if that's the break room we saw the android in the first time we were here.
It's likely the same place. I don't recall it having a lot of hiding places, though.
Ollie pushed past the others and moved toward the locker room. He pointed towards the door.
Depending on the size, we might be able to hide out in some of these lockers.
You probably spent a lot of time in lockers during school, didn't you, Ollie? Therese gave him a friendly jab in the shoulder. She was looking nervously around, but she was trying to diffuse her fear with a joke. He looked at her first with a frown, and then he broke into a smile as well. He barked a laugh.
Well, some.
He walked over to the door and pushed it open cautiously. The others backed him up with their weapons at the ready. The room was lined with 20 0G capable lockers, all bolted to the walls in various states of disrepair. A large block of letters was graffitied on the floor that read, "Shower time." Kneeling behind the benches with weapons at the ready were 4 other people. Well, 3 people and 1 android.
You sure are a noisy bunch, chit-chatting like a bunch of schoolgirls.
A woman with a sloppily shaved head growled in a backcountry accent. She had a few tufts of hair left on her head that wafted around as she motioned at them with a large grenade launcher in her hand.
Come on in and lower your weapons, or I'll turn you into a red mist.
One of the other crew members gave a scoff. She was holding some sort of modified pulse rifle with a crank on the side. A little fennec fox-like creature with a prehensile tail and chameleon-like eyes sat on her shoulder. In a corner, an android wearing work attire, but with faded safari shorts over them, stared blankly at the newcomers with a large hand cannon pointed their way.
Please comply. I surely would hate to clean up any of Grace's messes.
It intoned with a slightly female robotic voice. Unlike Ada, however, it was clearly an android. It had metallic skin as opposed to synthetic flesh, and no hair. The last person in the locker room said nothing, only pointed their EMP rifle at Ada specifically. She was human, but she had several cyber mods obviously installed. The white sclera of her eyes had been tattooed black. Over her shoulder, a sock puppet, which is a spinal rig that has an attachment capable of firing a weapon independently of the user's hands, pointed an SMG at the others. Ollie raised his weapon over his head. The others simply lowered them to the floor.
We don't mean any harm, we just simply trying to find a place to hide. We had some trouble up on the first floor.
You stupid noob turd buckets. If you bring trouble down on us, there'll be a crap ton of pain coming your way after we deal with the androids.
The woman, apparently Grace was her name, flicked her eyes over to the woman with the creature.
Miko, get Arcady on the horn. Tell him to wave off, there's trouble incoming. They'll be here before he can arrive.
She turned back to the others.
We had just contacted him to come pick us up. If it takes him 30 minutes to get here, we'll already be in a firefight with the androids. We're presumably following you down.
Denzel spoke up, looking confused. It took the lift only 20 minutes to get here from floor 4. With that travel time up and down, that's 40 minutes. Plenty of time. The other 4 divers all laughed.
You stupid crap-headed turd licker. We'll all have to get suited up to leave and get out to the ship and lift off from the dock. The droids will be here before we can be ready. Not to mention, they might just be coming down the receiving elevator on the dock itself. No. It's best if we hide out. You just keep your stupid mouth shut and follow us, or don't, and just die out here.
She stood up from her crouching position and started moving toward the door of the locker room.
Well, get out of my freaking way!
Denzel pointed to the airlock door at the back of the room. What's through there?
Shut your blowhole.
Grace pushed past Ollie and the others and then walked toward the break room door. She kicked it open angrily, her grenade launcher at the ready. I'll roll for an encounter. 43. None. Denzel moved aside and shrugged. Well, I guess we'll follow them then. The others filed in behind the more experienced crew. The break room was just as they had seen it last time, full of trash on the floor with vending machines along the walls. Everyone moved as a group through the break room and into the control room. Now I'll roll another encounter. None. 92. The control room was too small for 8 people, and they were all crammed together.
Xenia, won't you go out and scout the loading dock, make sure it's clear?
The android with shorts on nodded and went through the airlock. After a few minutes, the green light appeared, signifying it was safe to enter once again.
I hope you folks are good with these suits.
Without waiting for an answer, she and the others of her crew entered the airlock and began donning their suits. The shaved woman's suit was covered in patches. There was one on each side of her breast, one with a hot sauce bottle sticking out of a butt that read, "Fire in the hole." The other had very small text that said, "If you can read this, get the hell out of my face." None of the others waited, and they all began donning their own suits. Ada went around helping everyone, though the other diver crew waved her off. The little creature scurried into an area on the woman Miko's enlarged suit. It looked like a bizarre baby carrier on her chest. The creature peered out of a small plexiglass panel, its eyes darting around. The androids will arrive now in 10 minutes. The woman with blackened eyes watched Ada as she moved about, helping.
Hey, pretty android. I'm Lillian O. How are you called?
Ada looked taken aback by being called pretty, but she responded nonetheless. I am called Ada.
Looks like you took a nasty hit there in your shoulder. I've got some expertise around android repair. If we get out of here alive, I can take a look at it for you, if you want.
She had a lecherous look about her that reminded Ada of Ollie and how he treated women. I will consider it, thank you. The woman, Lillian, winked at her.
Enough flirting. Let's get...
Without waiting for an answer, Grace began the airlock decompression cycle. Therese was just finishing her donning procedure and hurriedly sealed her helmet. Now I'll roll for another encounter. 41. None. The two crews exited out into the familiar loading dock of the deep. The android, Xenia, was tucked into a small alcove, watching the receiving lift. When she saw them emerge, she trotted over.
All clear, Grace?
The woman nodded and motioned for them to all follow her. They all walked to the airlock hatch marked Waste Disposal.
Now, good thing we're wearing these V-suits, else y'all might get a little squeamish.
She cackled as she opened the hatch. Behind her was a long, empty hallway. They all marched through the narrow hallway in a single file, and Xenia, bringing up the rear, closed the hatch. They came to another bulkhead door at the other end of the passageway.
There's air in here, so hold on, because we'll get some blowback.
She pulled open the bulkhead door, and a large gust of air came rushing into the hallway until the pressure was normalized. Now I'll roll for another encounter. 82. None. The androids just now arrived on floor 6, through the elevator near the break room. All 8 divers waded into the room that was filled with a mountain of trash. Grace informed them that compactors ran here every day and started with no warning. Human occupants are not meant to be here. She told Xenia to block the bulkhead door, and the droid pulled out a laser welder and put a few spot welds in place. From the looks of the bulkhead door, this same thing had been done numerous times before.
Those welds won't stop them, but at least we'll have some warning enough to get.
Grace was already beginning to sort through the garbage.
We might as well give this place a once-over. We can find some good stuff sometimes.
Here's where I will depart a little from the gradient descent rules. There are 4 listings of possible things the crew might find in the garbage heap. They're supposed to look for them in 30-minute increments, with an artifact being found after 2 hours of searching. Instead, I'll roll a d4 for every 30 minutes of searching. If I roll a 4, then we get an artifact. I'll also roll every 10 minutes. There will be a 10% chance that the androids arrive here each roll. After 10 turns, I'll assume that they give up the search, unless something happens to alert them. I'll go ahead and roll 3 times for the androids searching as the crew searches the garbage. Anything under a 10 will be the crew is found. 39. 26. 27. The crew is not found. Now I'll roll for the search inside the garbage of the crew. D4. I got a 4. An artifact. Mythic fate check. Is it related to nanotechnology? I'm going to say impossible. I rolled an 87 versus a 15. No. Okay. Mythic fate check. Does Grace's crew find the artifact? 62 versus a 65. Yes. Now I'll roll on the artifact table. See what they get. 86. An advanced logic core which secretly contains a fetal AI. Androids must make a sanity save at advantage when interfacing, or they'll get connected to Monarch, who will attempt to recruit them to kill the crew. It's valued at a whopping 3.5 million credits. They found an artifact, so Monarch's stress increases by 1. It's now at a 4. After a 30-minute search, Lillian holds up something with a look of awe on her face.
Grace, look at this. A completely intact logic core. I can tell it's not ordinary at all. This might be one of Monarch's artifacts.
Grace's rough face is split with a wide grin.
Atta girl?
She went over there and slapped Lillian roughly on the back.
See there, turd sniffers? That's how a real diver gets crap done.
Ada walked over to Lillian. How do you determine that it is an artifact?
Well, we can't know for sure without testing it in the Ackler, but I've seen enough logic cores to know this one is different.
Ackler? Ada responds, her eyebrows raised. Grace mumbled something about noobs.
Yeah, it's a room on the 4th floor where you can test the properties of an item and then tell what it does. It's difficult to get to and it takes ages for the tests, but worth it if you want to sell something and not take the fence's word for it.
Hey, how will we know it's safe to leave here? Denzel changed the subject. He did not really think any nanomachine technology would be down here in the garbage. He also didn't consider that the cylinder in his pack was already an artifact.
We'll leave the spot weld in place and circle round through some air ducts.
Grace went as though she was going to spit, then remembered that she had her suit on. She abruptly started moving toward the edge of the room. She cleared a little of the garbage and revealed another bulkhead door. Mythic fate check. Does the trash compactor begin its compacting sequence? 86 versus 65. No. I'll roll for another encounter. 49. None. Mythic fate check. Does Grace's crew know how to disable the spikes in the upcoming hallway? Likely. 40 versus a 75, yes. The bulkhead door opened into a four-way intersection. Some of the garbage spilled out into the floor as they all squeezed through into the next room. Lillian stepped forward and fired her EMP pulse rifle into the two walls. They were blood-stained and covered with half-meter-long spikes. There was graffiti on the floor that read, "You can't take it with you."
If you walk through here with an artifact, those nasty spikes will move in and impale you. This EMP pisses off Monarch, but at least we won't die walking through.
She flipped up the visor on her vac suit to conserve her air. The others did the same. On the use of an EMP device, we have to roll for a panic check for Monarch. It's a D20. We got a 17 versus a 4. Pass. They all rushed through the intersection, not certain how long the spikes would stay immobilized. They turned to the right and entered what looked like a large tool depot. Just about every tool imaginable was located in the large room. Grace and the others did not even glance at the tools. She began straight away pulling over a crate so she could stand on it and reach one of the air ducts above. Mythic fate check. Does Therese see the tool that she wants? 33 versus a 65, yes. Also, I get a random event. My roll on the random event table. I got an 8, an ambiguous event. Okay, what does that mean? Let's find out. I'm gonna roll on the meaning tables. I got inquire and conflict. I think I have an idea for that. Miko saw Therese reaching for the tools used for picking locked doors. She reached over to stop her, but she was too late. Therese had the tool set in hand, not noticing a microfilament of steel wire attached to it.
You stupid fool. Now you've doomed us. Grace, we gotta split now. The hunter was just alerted.
She slapped the back of Therese's helmet.
Why didn't you warn us?
Therese screamed, remembering what Arcadia had said about the hunter. How long until the hunter arrives? I'll roll a 1d5. 1. 1 round. Okay. I think with my random event that I rolled, the security androids have also discovered the welded door in the garbage room. We have 2 threats incoming. The crew suddenly heard a large boom, the sound of sudden air depressurization in a nearby room.
Uh-oh, double trouble. Sounds like the androids have just arrived.
Miko worriedly peeked out of the tool room door. Sure enough, D10, we'll say, 6. 6 security androids were squeezing into the intersection room. At the same time, an emaciated form with an android torso and 6 scythe-like blades for legs entered the intersection. The top of its human-like head was covered in human eye sockets. It could effectively see all around it. In place of its lower jaw, a proboscis fitted with a syringe jutted out where its mouth should have been. As it walked, the huge fleshy sac on its hindquarters hovered just above the ground. 2 mechanisms on the back of it quivered on either side of a grotesque sphincter that flexed as it walked. Mythic fate check. Does the hunter see the androids in attack? Likely. I guess not. 94. No. I like to think the hunter just kills everything, but in this case, not so much. The security forces saw the hunter android enter, and they scrambled back into the garbage room, desperately trying to close the bulkhead door. Miko aimed her laser rifle through the open door and fired at the hunter. Miko, attack the hunter, make a combat check. 56 versus a 30. Fail. The shot went under one of the articulated legs, and she hurriedly closed the door, desperately trying to hold it closed. Grace was already in the air duct, and Lillian was in the process of climbing through. Their vac suits hindered any quick movement. Xenia rushed to help Miko brace the door against the hunter. Rather than try to open the door, however, the hunter simply lashed out with its bladed legs and began rending at the thin steel door. I'll say the door has 30 hit points. So the hunter will now attack the door with a 4d10. (21 damage, plus it causes a fear save. The door is now at 9 out of 30 hit points. Therese, make a fear save at disadvantage because you're around androids. That's a 10. And a 26 versus a 27. That's a save. Ada, make a fear save. That's a 62 versus an 81. That's a save. Denzel, make a fear save at disadvantage. That's a 62. You already failed versus 38, so that's +1 stress. He's up to 7 stress now. Ollie, make a fear save at disadvantage. That's a 17. And a 49 versus a 29. That's a fail. +1 stress. He's now at 11 stress. With Lillian in the vent, Denzel grabbed Teresa's arm and shoved her toward the vent next. He and Ollie took up positions to be able to fire on the door. "You won't be able to stop him! Step aside and we'll just shoot him!" he shouted. Before Therese could get into the vent, Lillian handed back her EMP rifle.
"Take this. Maybe it'll slow him down enough for you to escape,"
she called over her shoulder. Denzel grabbed the EMP from Therese and motioned for her to go ahead and climb up. She hesitated for just a moment, then began climbing. Ada ran over and pushed her leg so that she had a boost into the duct. Xenia and Miko both jumped back from the door as it splintered and readied their weapons. Miko desperately began turning a crank on hers to charge it up for the next shot. The door suddenly broke open with several bladed legs piercing the metal. Ollie, Denzel, Ada, and Xenia were all ready. The hunter's stats: he's got 65 combat check, 65 instinct check for any other checks besides combat. He has 4 wounds with 40 hit points per wound. He can use his bladed legs as weapons that do 4d10 damage plus causes a fear save. He can also shoot a steel web that does 1d10 damage, and the target must make a body save or be knocked down. That's the end of the scene. The chaos factor is definitely going up to a 7. Monarch's stress is at a 4. I honestly do not think our crew will survive this encounter. At least, I have a bad feeling one or more characters are going to die here. I hope you enjoyed this session. It might be the last we see of some of these characters. See you next time. If you want to help support the show, consider leaving a like and a comment, as that really helps the algorithm. Consider sharing the link on your favorite social media.